I know that your Facebook has been full of, you've done panels and you spoke locally and you've done some panels. Were there any standout events from that what have been some of the standout events that you've done since the launch?
I've done a bunch of different things. I did like a scout, like sort of author in residence for a couple of synagogues where I spent Shabbat and did some
Yeah,
speaking. I did, that was of course before COVID.
right.
I did a thing with a writer's club where we talked about kind of the process of writing a book, which was great. I've done a number of programs with schools, and they've been really wonderful, just opportunities to be able to share about the book, the writing process, to answer kids' questions, to talk about creative writing craft. We've done a bunch of those things that have been really great. And next month, I'm going to be doing a book club for a synagogue in New Jersey.
Nice.
So that's really looking forward to that. And the school is going to do a mother-daughter book night around the prophetess
Oh, I
for
love that.
they're targeting like 8th to 11th graders.
Yeah,
The book, it's really like for, you could, whatever, 7th grade and up, but they're going to target 8th to 11th graders with their moms.
yeah.
And they'll both read the book and then we'll get to talk about it together. And I've also done a couple of bat mitzvah programs, which have been really, the kinds of programs where kids, like girls, are kind of learning before their bat mitzvahs
Yeah,
with their moms.
yeah.
Yeah, so I've had lots of great opportunities, and I'm ready for more. I'm I'm excited to continue to share this. I think we're pursuing different kinds of opportunities for the spring and for the fall, and also this is a great book for summer reading lists for
Yeah.
school. So if you're looking to like refresh your summer reading list for high school or middle school, this is a great book to put on that list. I have a teacher's guide for it. So yeah, so it's been a really great journey, and hopefully more to come.
It's fantastic. Where can people either follow you online or get more information about things that are coming up with the book?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, Evonne Mars, EVONNEMARZ, and I'm on Facebook. The Prophetess book has a Facebook page
Great.
where you can get lots of information, and anyone can write to me if you want have other ideas or want to explore specific things. My book email is yvonnewrites@gmail. So would love to talk more about possibilities.
That is fantastic. Is there anything about the writing process that I forgot to ask you that you'd be like, I can't believe I didn't tell Leah this thing?
I wanted to ask if I could do a little reading. Is that
Absolutely.
so? I wanted to do this reading. This is from sort of towards the middle of the story. So it's like I was saying, Rachel is this 17-year-old girl who's been called to join a secret community of prophets, and at this stage in the story, she's just at the point where the visions that she's receiving are starting to have her actually have something to do, something that she herself needs to do to try and save someone or make the world better. And this is actually the very first time when Rachel is called upon to save someone. And so I wanted to share it. And I like to share this scene because, first of all, I think that sometimes I think that when we think of ourselves as, having to do heroic things, we think we're always going to know what we're going to, what that should look like, or what we should do. And sometimes it's really not about feeling like we know what we're supposed to do. It's just about, the thing getting done, and it doesn't always have to be graceful. And I think that's especially important for young women to know, but also important for all of us to remember that it doesn't always have to be graceful. And the other thing is that I think a lot about this scene in terms of what it means to be a feminine superhero. That a prophetess, one could think of as sort of a feminine superhero, not using the kinds of superpowers that like we think of as masculine superpowers, like dominance and power and strength, but feminine superpowers like insight and intuition, and asking for support, finding. I like to think of these as It's feminine superpowers, the insight, intuition, wisdom, knowing how and when to ask for help. And so I like to share this scene as sort of Rachel's experience of becoming a prophetess who can actually save someone and, maybe being a feminine superheroine. You've been scraping the bottom of that yogurt for 10 minutes, Lauren pointed out at lunch. Sorry, I said, glancing up at her. I was just thinking about something. Care to share? She asked, popping the last of her sandwich into her mouth. I shook my head. She tilted her head, curious. Are you still worried about that poetry kid? That instant seemed to last a long time, as scenes from a recent meditation flashed before me. Freed from school early, he sits in the secret place. Suddenly, I understood. Today, in the snow, today it was time for me to. What? How? Frustration descended on me so powerfully I felt almost dizzy. What was I supposed to do for him? Where was my clear instruction, my prophetic guidance? How could this be my responsibility? No one had answered any of my questions. Just as rapidly, my frustration was replaced with fury, then desperation. I stood, ignoring Lauren's puzzled expression and the lunch tray in front of me. I have to go. But we're not done till fifth period, she said. I shook my head, grabbing my bag. He's gone already. Outside, I wandered the streets looking for him. The snow was already half an inch deep on the sidewalk. The frigid wind blew snow into my face, freezing my nose and cheeks. My fingers felt numb inside my gloves. A stream ran under some of the roads in our neighborhood. That gully where he hid had to be somewhere nearby. Half dazed by the cold, I walked several blocks in one direction before deciding it was the wrong way and turning back. Blinded by my own hot tears, I tripped several times, finally falling and twisting my left wrist. Then I heard a low, terrible groan. I froze, staring around me. Jake! I screamed. Where was he? I waited, willing him to moan again. Oh. Then the awful sound of retching and such a long and terrible cry, I ran in his direction. His baseball hat had fallen off. He wore no coat or gloves. His eyes were wide open, his body convulsing in some kind of seizure. I stumbled downhill from the sidewalk to the stream, slipping a little in the snow. His shaking continued, spit and vomit dribbling from his mouth. I doubted he even knew I was there. Ignoring the vomit, I knelt down next to him and grasped his fingers. They were stiff and frighteningly cold, but when I blew warm air onto them, he recoiled. Wincing a little at my sore wrist, I slipped off my gloves and put them on his hands. Help! I shouted. There was no answer, only a snowy silence. I was too late. What if he died right here? I thought of that time I'd rescued Chris after his bike accident, knocking on doors until I found someone to help. But I couldn't leave Jake here alone. Hardly thinking, I opened my bag, tossing books and tissues into the snow. At last, my hands closed around my cell phone, and with trembling fingers, I dialed 911. It's an emergency, I yelled into the phone. When I'd finished giving the details, Jake had stopped shaking. His breath came in shallow gasps. Jake, I said, stroking his icy face with my cold fingers. Stay with me. I survived only because of you. The words came back to me as if I was dreaming, but this was no dream. Jake lay unconscious, his body slowly being covered by the falling snow. Tears came rushing down my face, defrosting the tears already on my cheeks. I tried, I said, wiping my tears with my left sleeve so I didn't have to stop stroking his cheek with my right hand. I tried. Please, I screamed aloud. Please, please. At last, I understood I was praying. God, God, let him live, please. I prayed like that until finally I heard sirens approaching in the distance.
Wow. I have full body goosebumps, Evonne.
Oh, good.
It is a stunning scene. I'm so excited to read your book. It's a really, I think you capture so beautifully what I imagine would be like. She's a high school kid, right? She's at lunch. I assume Lauren is one of her besties.
Yeah.
You know, the poetry kid is evocative, I think, to us. And I assume to kids today, like you said, the poetry kid, and I'm like, I know who that is. Like I know who that is. I know like where in my hometown the poetry kid would be hanging out on a cold day. It happens to be, as I look out my window, I happen to be in the type of weather you're describing.
Yes.
But I'm certain if I read this book in the middle of summer, I would still have full body goosebumps. That was thank you for choosing that scene to read.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share it with you and your group, your
Yeah.
audience.
Yeah. Great. So I will link in the show notes. Do you have a preferred bookstore where people should order the book from?
So the book is available on Amazon and on BarnesandNoble.com.
Great.
It is also available on Kindle. So for people who like to read Kindle, it's available like that. I think that if you Googled it, you could also find it in other places, but those are the main places
Okay.
right now. The important thing is just to look for The Prophetess by Evonne Marzouk. There are a few other books called The Prophetess,
Sure.
but there's only one written by me.
Yes. And I will have, obviously, also linked in the show notes the correct place to buy it from. So this was so wonderful to talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
So thank you for sharing this amazing scene with us. It gives people a taste of how you write, a taste of who Rachel is as a character, her surroundings. But when you're sitting here in 2021, where are you with The Prophetess today?
Where I am is really excited to share this book and to take it to the next level of engagement in the Jewish community and beyond, to really give everyone the opportunity to read this book and to have the experience of being inspired by the story and by their own gifts. Because, this is a story about gifts and about gifts that Rachel is called with and that she's growing into. And we all have gifts that we're growing into. And I really hope that this story will empower people and inspire people, motivate people to live into their own life purpose, their own gifts, their own visions that they're looking to fulfill. And where I am right now is just looking for all the opportunities to make this book available to people so that they can learn from it and really enjoy it and grow with it. And I would just love to be in touch with anyone who would like to continue that conversation with me.
Well, it's a great call to action. And I am so happy you took some time out on I was like on a snowy Sunday evening, but it's a Monday.
That's true.
It's a Monday.
Feels like Sunday.
It does feel like Sunday, for sure. Great. Well, Evonne, this has been a wonderful way to spend a Monday evening that feels like a Sunday.
It's been great for me too. It's so nice to get to talk to you after all this time.
Thank you for listening to Finding Favorites with Leah Jones. Please make sure to subscribe and drop us a 5-star review on iTunes. Now, go out and enjoy your favorite things.